Well, here we are again, Saturday afternoon. We still don't know what to call it channel, so we keep turning up. um, so I'll say it again, and you've heard me say it before. The common denominator is that we all belong to TASA, Terrestrials, States Assemblies, and that's got to be a good thing. However, we're likely to talk about anything, and we're probably going to talk about, I think we are, we're going to talk about off world stuff and UFOs and all that sort of stuff. So brace yourself. So, Sarah, are we going to go straight into the word of the day or straight into Anna's stuff?
Okay, firstly, I apologise for my dog. No, we're going to go into the word of the day. It's all a bit themed around UFO stuff. But the word of today is plane, Plane. And I'm not talking about an aeroplane. I'm talking about plane as in planes of existence. And that's what we're talking about and Fred can probably talk a bit more about this. I have done some research on this. All it says is it's referring to an imaginary point between here and here, or a flat surface. I don't know how they get plane of consciousness out of that. I have no idea. So if anyone else does, great. But when we're talking about planes of existence, we're talking about different levels of frequency, or consciousness or existence or whatever you want to call it. So that's our word of the day. And then it's really up to you guys whether you want to just talk a little bit about what might have been going on in TASA this week, or whether you just want to launch straight into the anadocs.
Did anybody else have anything to add about plane?
Playing basically is like, let's say, look at your computer screen and you know how it's a rectangle, right? Just ignore the vertical bits. Look at your top two bits like that. Imagine the top bit goes left to infinity, the right goes left to infinity, and on the bottom, in the same fashion, the left goes to infinity, the right goes to infinity. That's a plane. Now, when we break it up by putting in those two vertical lines, we've got part of a plane. That's a region. In this case, a rectangle. That's the mathematical approach to it. As for planes, when they say planes of consciousness and all of that, I assume it would mean levels. I yield.
You should have been a
Yeah.
school teacher, mate.
No, my take on plane is that yeah, you've got different levels of consciousness. So on one plane, you'll find people who are, say, three-dimensionally inclined, and so on and so up. So up to whatever whatever plane you are in. So there are separate planes within 3D as well, because there's you can have the evil side of 3D, and you can also have a positive or malevolent and benevolent planes of existence within the same realm. So to me, planes is a lot more complicated than just a single plane.
Okay.
There you go.
There you
Well,
go.
this is going to get a lot more complicated than just a few minutes today.
Oh, I hope
Yeah.
so. We wouldn't want to be
So-
bored.
We know you've been looking forward to this one, Wayne. We know you've been hanging out for it.
Yeah, I can hardly wait. I'm excited. You got no idea how excited I am.
For 3 weeks he was hanging out in there.
I know. Okie dokie. All right. Well, I'll get into the anadocs. All right. So, alrighty. I might just this one time, I might go a little bit backwards and start with the most recent and go back to last Saturday, because that will segue nicely into what we're going to talk about for the rest of the time. So most recently she sent through a document from Grana. She sent two videos, both with music. One is the 999 frequency short video, 5 minutes, where she recommends humming, and humming releases, once again, I forget what the chemical is, but we need it, and it gets released through here if we hum. and it's actually really, really good for us. And the other video is an African 432 hertz music video. And she just says, rest, relax, restore, and come home because, you know, all the hard work's done. We now have to kind of focus on what we want to bring in. So get yourself into a good place, let go of the harm and the trauma, and, you know, get yourself back to square. Prior to that one, she put out a Grana Bites one, and this is another video, but she essentially is, and it's a 2-hour video, so I must confess I didn't watch the full thing, but what they were talking about in that YouTube video is that a lot of the unknown phenomena that is happening around the world at the moment in terms of weather is actually electromagnetic manipulation being done with, you know, by the technocrats and the tech giants and stuff. And so essentially what she's saying is mankind is playing with tech beyond what it has the knowledge or wisdom to deal with, which could have horrific consequences leading to the end of the planet, quite literally, because that's what happened to Mars. Is apparently it was a plasma war, and she's not the only person to say that. That's fairly well known. And there was also a planet that got blown up, you know, through those wars. And we don't know yet how to deal with plasma-based tech because it's all been hidden from us and stuff like that. But the technocrats and politicians need to stop shoving things at us purely for financial gain. So they're essentially what they're doing is they're putting technology out there for these immature people to play with without teaching us what it can do and how bad it might be and all the rest of it. So she just wants them to stop.
Have you seen those videos of the lightning pouring to the ground? Not striking the ground, just pouring to the ground.
Yep, I've seen them. Yep. So that kind of stuff, but it's all over the world. It's really affecting things very badly everywhere. Then prior to that, there was an international public notice, and she's talking about the root organization of the Muslim Brotherhood has given rise to all other Islamic terrorist organizations. She puts a video up there from Promethean Update. It's Promethean Update, and they explain it in really good detail about what's actually happening with that. But the Muslim Brotherhood is funded by London, and it was used to fund the smaller organizations. So the Muslim Brotherhood was like the main organization, but then there was all these other little ones like Hezbollah and various other ones. Muslim Brotherhood fund the smaller organizations to attack any rising nationalistic tendencies across the Middle East because they don't want nationalist people to rise up and say, hey, get out of our country, because then the money pot for the London banksters would dry up. If they said, no, get out, we're going to take it back for ourselves. So you would have seen, you know, there's been various people every time they've tried to take their country back, you know, presidents have been shot and all sorts of things. So the Middle Eastern Brotherhood, funded by London, has been trying to keep everyone under British thumb. The drug cartels that fund the Brotherhood are all being targeted and in many cases arrested and taken to America for indictment. This is drying up funding for the Middle Eastern terrorist organizations. Also, the US-Canadian border is now being targeted because Mexican and Chinese cartels are sending drugs through to the US through the Canadian border. So the DEA, which is the Department of
Drug Enforcement Agency, isn't it?
will be setting up offices along that border because it's a massive border. And it's important to remember that now we can see the visible criminals, which is the King, the Crown, the Lord Mayor of City of London, and the Pope, and she calls them out, names them. It's still the largely hidden ones that we have yet to get to, which are the Swiss and German bankers. So essentially, there's a whole lot of organisations that Pete Hegseth called out and said, right, we're going after these organisations because they're funding these drug cartels and bloody, bloody, blah. And they are all Middle Eastern organisations, all registered in the UK. So it's all coming out of the UK. So she's not impressed. And once again, Britain have done a bad thing. Britain, not English people, not Scottish people, British. This is the thing. We've got to start to get specific with our language. So it's not the Chinese, it's the communists. It's not the Jews, it's the Zionists. You know, we need to start to differentiate. Prior to that, there was an international public notice in which she talks about with video attachment, shows between 1850 and 1890 in America, 12 families ended up ruling the world through cronyism, backdoor deals, and making hay while the sun shone because there were no rules in place to stop them. And then they put the rules in place to stop anyone else doing what they'd already done, which was basically just be greedy pigs and, marry and, intermarry and link everything up in their little network of money. In 1840, Queen Victoria married Prince Albert, who was a German, and he got all of her wealth, which was English, which he then handed over to Germany. Now, just as an aside, if you've watched Janet Ossebard, you'll know that the Khazarian Mafia came to England across Europe through Germany because they pretended to be Jewish. And the Germans then started the old switcheroo with the legal and lawful persons. And, that's the start of this crime spree, which was almost 200 years worth of crime. Burkina Faso is fighting back, and she's got a video about that. They have a president who is very unimpressed by money. He's a young guy, he's a soldier, and he doesn't give a rat's about money. He doesn't care. He's ethical and honest, and he wants his country back, and he is telling the colonialists where to go. And he's now sending the bill for all of the damages done again to King Charles, London Lord Mayor, and the Pope. And it does say that Trump is not responsible for paying the bill, as he is just a lackey running a corporation that is not doing the job that it promised the people it would do. So the other thing too is it's interesting if you go and you have a look at the Burkina Faso stuff, because I went and did a bit more research. What's actually happening at the moment is that the financial banksters around the world, because Burkina Faso is fighting back, they are actually planning to stop all of the financial, they're just planning to basically block aid Africa or these African nations financially. They're just planning to turn off the financial tap, which I think is where the St. Crown Exchange comes in, because that is independent of them and it's going, do what you like. So, and they did refer to that. They said that there is money coming into them from a very unexpected source, but they didn't go any further and say what that source was. This is the news report out of Burkina Faso. So there is stuff going on over there. Then prior to that one, Grana put out a document, which I know Mookie posted up, The Terrors of Indoctrination, and this is what I wrote to paraphrase. Just stop it with all the paperwork. We're not GovCo. If you can't put it on one page, just stop. Stop bringing in heaps of rules, stop bringing in all the guidelines and instructions, etc. Keep it simple. We are not recreating bureaucracy, and anyone that is doing that needs to be called out kindly but firmly. Okay? Prior to that, this is where it's sort of we're talking about. So before that, there were two international public notices. The first one was the angelic nations. There are two blood types on Earth, one that is found and one that was made. So the found one was the humans pre-Anunnaki interference, and the made one is after the Anunnaki got to us and diced and spliced us. So the host bodies, so the host being the angelic host, started coming into Europe about 60,000 years ago. Coincidentally, that's about the same time that they say originals have been on Australia. Angels share the host bodies, but they do so with the full agreement of the physical body. So it's not like demons, which just possess without asking. Angels have actually worked this out prior to the body being born and all the rest of it. So out of the 200 rogue fallen angels on the planet, only 11 of them are left, and one is under arrest at the Vatican. All the others are being monitored in real time. The angels are here. The angels being, if you've got the M on your hand and whatever, the angels are here to help restore the planet. So rest now, recover, and think about what you want to see in the world. The 999 code. She really wants people to listen to that 999 code. And then the last one that we're going to talk about is another international public notice, angelic service records. And she says, you can see your service records in your palms. If there are M's appearing in different ways on your palms, they signify different tasks or duties or missions that you've carried out, sometimes over several lifetimes. What is she? She's saying an Andromedan fleet have been here since 2012, providing support and enforcement to other galactic visitors who are collecting their own emissaries who have been stranded here. Now, if you want to find out more about this, go and watch Michael Seller. Yeah, Michael Seller's YouTube channel, because they talk a lot about this kind of stuff, about different beings here and being stranded. And they were supposed to have continual communication with their kind. So just say I'm a being from planet Zog, and I came in because, I had to help raise the vibration of the planet, yada, yada, yada. I'm actually supposed to have communication with planet Zog or my family, because a lot of them have got families and they're hovering around, and we've just been completely cut off. And that's because there's been this huge war in the heavens. Okay. And that's because there was a deep state in the heaven as well as down here, and they had to clean that up. So Michael Sell's got huge amounts of information on this. Also, George Kavasilis has got some good information. So, they're just two. Fred will probably have many others. So, an Andromedan fleet have been here since 2012, providing support and enforcement to other galactic visitors who are visiting or collecting their own emissaries who've been stranded here. They will remain until a trial of the prisoner in the Vatican happens. So that would be, I'm assuming, the Grey Pope. And the Heavenly War has finally been mopped up. So they're in the mopping up stages at the moment. And then she says, don't be surprised or afraid if you see more ships coming and going over the coming months. So, Fred, I want to know, my big question is, do the ships have colours? Can we recognise them by their patches? Is it like Andromedans are blue and silver and the Pleiadians are purple and grey? Like, how do we know?
No, it's a lot more complicated than that. There tends to be a form of ship that each race has, like they have preferences sort of thing, but it's not hard done by. If you see a triangle flying through the sky, you can't say it's an RPT, which is a Earth-created reversed engineered vehicle, because there are triangle ships, but there's also a lot of the cylindrical type of craft getting around as well. If you listen to any of Dr. Michael Sala's stuff, he's got a fellow who's now out of the armed forces. His name's JP. He does a lot of work on ship recognition and things like that. He's been on most ships that are visiting or owned by this planet. It's quite a deep subject, the ships and propulsion systems, yeah. So there's no way of telling what's going to be there. They talk about, at some point there's going to be Earth changes, and I think they're trying to stop any of the malevolent craft being able to get to the Earth, because that's what they've done in the past. They've come in and they've gone, oh, your planet's about to blow up, we'll help you. And if you come on board, we can save you. And that is when they then take you back out to space and or to the moon or somewhere, and use you for more food, breeding, and soldiers and labour, all that sort of work. So, yeah, don't be tricked by the craft design. It's more to do with your heart. Your heart will lead you in the right direction there.
Yeah, very good. Just I was going to jump in after Sarah spoke, but I'll do it. For anybody who's watching this and you think this is a bit woo-woo, all that stuff that Sarah read out has been put together by Anna von Reitz, and they're just the last few articles, and I think she's up to 5,800 and something articles. This stuff that she's writing, it's not just a bit of bullshit that we made up. It's Anna's got a lot of knowledge on this stuff, and so we've decided, we we were going to do this 3 weeks ago. Getting all of us in the same room at the same time seems to have been a problem. But so we're gonna talk about that sort of stuff a lot tonight. But it's not woo-woo. It's all part of the conversation these days. So
You've got to remember, that we're every single one of us, whether we're talking about planets, animals, even water bodies, air, a whole lot of us are all frequency. We're all frequency based. So, you know, it may seem like woo-woo, but that's only because it's been taken away from us. You talk to the Aboriginals today up in Arnhem Land there, especially the older fellas, they know all about the spacemen.
Yeah.
Oh, you.
Yeah. Okay. Sarah, you must be ready to unload some more stuff, another couple of questions or a bit of knowledge or.
I guess the thing is, so we might not all. Some of us would be aware that there's a lot of people talking about a dimensional split or a dimensional shift coming along, and where humanity, I guess, will be divided into 3D and 5D. 3D, not the one's worse than the other. They're both because we presume that we all come from the same source. It's just that some of us want to learn different lessons than others. Okay. So, and we want to have different experiences and all that sort of stuff. Now, 3D is a world, I think, where you're going to see it's similar to what we've got now, just without the massive amounts of corruption and Fred, do you want to talk about that, about why the world is so screwed up, like this false matrix that we've kind of now clawing our way out of? Do you want to talk about that a bit?
Yeah, I can talk about that a bit. At the moment, just for your own interest, on Dr. Michael Saylor about 8 days ago, he interviewed one of my most favourite ladies about this sort of thing, Laura Eisenhower. Now, she's been through the deep state and everything like that, and has been super soldier and so on. But yeah, the planet's not screwed up. It's been led by it depends on whether you're religious or not. They could be fallen angels. If you're not religious, well, then maybe you might want to call them the Dracos. There's been wars in space forever, basically. If you ever watch Stargate, they do a pretty good representation of war, of what's going on as far as God go, because they talk about the different gods, and they bring all the gods in. It's really interesting because they have Thor is there, but he's an ET, a malevolent ET. But then there's the Goa'uld, who they tend to take them out of the Egyptian gods, and they're definitely not benevolent. They are the opposite, benevolent. Sorry, get my benevolence and benevolence mixed up, but they're definitely not good. They are what we are seeing here. They are the ones who are after humanity as food, as slaves, and so on and so forth. So the fact is that we can't really say that we are victims, because in one sense we chose this. This is an amazing learning time, especially when you consider what we come from. This universe is a duality, but there are other universes out there that have all other sort of learning spaces. But this is one of the most toughest arenas to be in, and you have to be fairly high up the creation scale to come here, because in a lot of George's work, he talks about that we're talking about 3D, but there's 1 and 2D as well, and they are inhabited by people as well, and those places are a lot worse than this, a lot worse. I don't really, I've never really studied that too much, but they are good places. And 3D is really once you've been you're at 3D, you're going to start looking around for time or places, I suppose, that we can use to grow, to grow from what we've learned. We've come to basically the darkest and lowest area we can. And so now we're all sort of said, well, this is enough. We've come far enough. We've got to once again rejoin the, I'm just trying to think of the word, join our own kind again, become light and love and so on and so forth. It depends on how you look at things. I mean, when I was earlier, I always thought I was a part of a group, well, let's say a religion type thing, but not religion. I've never really gone with religion, but as I've learned more, I've come to realize that there's no such thing as a God, as a single entity who rules over people. Now, this is what I take away from what I've read and learned. I believe honestly that we are eternal beings, and being eternal, we aren't created. We can't be created. We can certainly learn through being living ourselves, if you like. So we all have oversouls, which are a higher, much larger being than us, and it decides on what lesson it wants to learn next time round. Now, that doesn't mean he's only got one of us running around here at a time. There could be several on this plane. There could be several in different time zones. So they can be all over the universe, and it could be in multiverses as well. It doesn't just have to be in this universe. So you can see that the oversoul is much, much larger. He is controlling a much larger thing. And according to what I've read, every one of us have our own universe. But we partake in different universes as well. I don't know how far I can go down this sort of stuff, but is that sort of what you meant?
Well, I think I'd like to just expand a little bit with your oversoul talk. If anyone's interested in how that works, and my understanding is similar to Fred's, is in that, time is not linear, time is cyclical, and it's up and down and all over. It's just like everything is now, kind of, and it depends on where you are. And so, yes, you can have different incarnations at different times and different beings. So your oversoul will kind of say, all right, I might have 3 or 4 different people in different time zones and different places and stuff like that, and they'll feed a certain amount of their energy. So your oversoul's got 100% of the energy, and that might say, all right, well, Sarah needs 10%, and Sally Ann over there in ancient China needs, well, she wouldn't be called Sally Ann, would she? But she needs she's got a pretty agrarian kind. She's in southern America back in the 1850s, and she's living in a little farm. She doesn't need a lot of energy. We just want to learn a few things. So that oversoul kind of comes in and out as they need to, and you can get more energy if you need it. If you are sitting there going, oh my God, this life is just insane, you can actually, if you are connected in, you can ask for more energy. You can ask for more power, whatever.
Yep.
A really good, sorry if the clock's making a noise in the background, I'm really sorry. I'll shut the door in a sec. But a really good book around that is one of the Seth books, and it's called Oversoul 9 or Oversoul 7. I can't remember, but it's one of the Seth Speaks books. Brilliant book and it just because it's like a story version. It's not a. So Seth, for those of you that aren't aware, back in the 70s, I think there was a woman, Jane Roberts, and she channeled this being called Seth. And there was a huge, she put out a lot of books, like 5 or 6 different books, but there was one that was a story, and it was called Oversoul 7. And I read that, and it really helped formulate a lot of, there was a lot of things I kind of knew, and it kind of just centered them all in and brought them in. So that was, and I read that, oh God, 15 years ago, but it does really help explain that whole how you can belong to lots of different places and different beings at the same time, or how you can be in lots of different beings at the same time. And they're not necessarily all here on planet Earth, because there's
Right.
lots of other
Right.
planets out there. They're all over the place. So,
And they
but
can be
that might, it sort of somehow can explain, sometimes you get bleed through of
Yeah.
different lifetimes, or you feel like you've done something or something seems familiar, and you're like, how? That kind of can explain why you might feel that. But
Yeah, all this talk about the oversoul. I think there's been a couple of times in my life when my oversoul left me to my own devices, and it hasn't ended well. And perhaps when I meet up with it again, I might, ask a few questions and perhaps suggest that he maybe should have looked after me a little better.
Maybe you misunderstood what he wanted, sure, Wayne.
Maybe I did. Maybe I did.
That story you told me once of what happened to you up in Sydney there area. That was
Yeah.
very interesting too, you know.
Yeah, and I would repeat it on here, except it'd probably take too long. But
it wouldn't. I think it's a very interesting one, Wayne, because it shows you that ETs have been here all the time. You know, just because people are suddenly finding out about ET and talking, and not like we've all decided they don't exist, and now suddenly it's, oh, well, maybe they do. You know, there could be, bacterias on Mars. I mean, bacteria's my kid's bum. They're there's beings, they're sentient beings living inside of it, and there's housing on there. I mean, that was given out so long ago. It's with the DISIC meetings I used to go to in America, Global Informers, Global Spiritual Informers Conference. Hugely interesting, those people. They talk like it's just day-to-day things. You know, it's not anything unusual, ETs and encountering ETs. The only reason we don't do it more often is our government has worked with the black hats, and the white hats have to hide all the time. Otherwise, it'd be a lot more prevalent. They are here helping us all the time. At that meeting, I know I've told you and Sarah, the first one I went to, there were 2 lights over the southern towers in the hotel I was staying in Florida, and they were ETs. They were craft that sat there, and they were keeping us in a good energy there so that things didn't happen to us. And the second one I went to, they said on the second night, right, everybody down to the park. So we all went down to the park. They turned all the lights out in the park. They got permission from the council to turn the lights out. And then we laid on our backs in the grass, looked up to the heavens, and we saw a show of UFOs you won't believe, including TR-7s, which are from Earth. They're a lot lower, flying through, and just flights like you'd see jets going through, but UFOs going through from, I think they were Andromedans, from the Andromedan fleets. So, this business that we're alone.
so I know what you're saying. Well, I accept what you're saying to be true because I've done quite a lot of research and played around in this space. And I know here in Australia we've got or on Terrestrials, we've got the land like north of Adelaide or north of Port Augusta, pretty much all that area that, you're not allowed to go to because it's private land and you got to get permission and permits and stuff. And right up through the Tanami, right up through there.
And
That's
there's another springs. I mean, Zion Mountain is a big one for the sorry, go on.
So we've got, and I mean, it leads into the fact too that, that particularly that area in South Australia. And if you go down the whole Rachel Vaughan rabbit hole, for those of you that don't know, that's the kids in tunnels stuff. That the area underneath there is a huge junction for a whole lot of maglev trains underneath to traffic things around the world. But that is known in the spook world as Area 52. So it gives you an idea of what's going on. And God, years ago, it would have been 15 years ago, it was one of those, it was like Nexus magazine, but it wasn't Nexus, it was something else. And there was this guy, and he was publishing books at the time talking about the fact that he had worked on the base there. He was military, had worked on the base there, and he was talking about the different aliens that actually lived on that base. And he said they've families, they've got their families here, they're raising kids, all this kind of stuff. So I think we absolutely do have them. My belief is that Pine Gap is a portal to the inner world. And so that's the other thing we haven't talked about. I mean, there's all these aliens out, well, people out there from other galaxies. But what about the other beings that we've got on this planet right here? That
Well, according to the last disc I went to a couple of years ago now, there's 9 billion people, so they say, on the planet, and we're overloaded. There's 21 billion ETs on the planet. They're inner Earth,
okay.
down in the oceans, slightly off phase to us. 21 billion. And that's only considered a small population.
Yeah,
Did
this
you
whole
count,
8
Fred?
billion,
No, I didn't have the time that week.
I think this 8 billion number, I think it's a bit of a nonsense. I'm not really on top of that. I think
You've
it's
heard that Chinese lady talking on that, haven't you? You've seen that one with that Chinese, I think, whatever they call those people who look at populations and all that. And she turns around and goes, well, if you look at the figures, China was at this number in this time. I can't remember the exact dates in that. And she said, and since then we've had a one-child policy, and yet they say we've got the largest population in the world now.
Yeah.
And she turned around and said they'd be lucky to have half as many as India.
Well, and the population has been falling off a cliff in the last however many years because, birth rates have gone down all around the world. I mean, very recently we know what's going on, but even prior to that, they've been populating, like controlling the population since the 1970s when they started with things like tetanus jabs and shit like that. So, this 8 billion number, I'm a bit dubious.
Yeah, very, very dubious. I reckon we'd be lucky if we had 5 billion on the planet at the moment.
So, Fred, what do you think? How do you think that, because Anita was asking earlier, how do we distinguish between blue beam and, because we know disclosure is going to happen. I mean, I've read it that there's going to be a second coming of Jesus,
Yep.
and then there'll be another second coming of Jesus.
Yep.
It's like,
Yeah,
will
they're
Lord
gonna have
Jesus
to-
stand up, please, please?
Yeah, please show. Who's the real one? Come on. It's like
So-
asking who's the true Donald
Well,
Trump.
I'd actually be surprised if he come back after the way he got treated last time.
It was real. Yeah, I agree with you.
I saw a meme over Easter. I saw a
They've
meme
got
and it's bad, but basically it's like, it was one of those things, it was like Jesus died for our sins. And someone said, actually, he rose again on Friday. So, or he died on Friday, came back on Sunday. So
Yeah.
Jesus took a long weekend off for our sins. I was like, okay, made me laugh. But so
That's
if
the
that
reason that they've got to bring
happens,
him back.
where do you think it's going to happen though? I mean, America's
Well,
the obvious
close, aren't we?
place.
I mean,
Sorry?
it's not going to be like it has been. Everybody's expecting suddenly the whole world's going to become religious because the second coming has turned up. The second coming happened a long time ago, and it's within every person that's on this planet now. We're all carrying the Christ consciousness.
Yes.
So it's not going to be like people are expecting, but there may be like the fake alien invasion. They still may try to push things like that through. I mean, we can't say when that's going to happen or if it's going to happen, but the chances are that Jesus one will probably have to come through so that we can let diehards down slowly, because there's a lot of people out there. I mean, my friend Krista has just died recently. She's been a Buddhist, you name it. She's looked at everything. She was born a Catholic, and I'm not knocking Catholics. There's bloody beautiful Catholic nuns and priests out there. I'm not knocking them, but they do have a way of getting to people. And in the end, they were bombarding her every day up there at the oh gosh, whatever it's called, hospice, at the
Mhm.
hospice. And she wound up committing all her money, basically all her money, to the churches. Now, I know that beforehand, she wanted to know how we could help groups of different religions in Australia, you know.
Mhm.
But I know for a fact the whole lot's gone to the Catholic Church. So
Mm.
it's one of those things that there's a lot of people out there who are still
Very
tied up.
much attached. Very much
Correct.
attached to religion. Yeah.
Correct. And
And
we've
it's
got to break that somehow. And the only way they're going to do that is to see that Jesus has feet
yeah.
of clay.
And I think that's the thing. People need to stop externalizing their power.
Yes.
Not just like in TASA. We do, we do it in
Yes.
well,
Yes.
not in TASA. In TASA, we're taking our power back, but it's this
No.
whole temptation
Yep.
to outsource your power and outsource your authority and outsource. So I look at
Yep.
my life and I'm like, well, my life's shit. It's easier to blame someone up there than actually to say, well, okay, what are you doing yourself that's contributed to this? And a lot of people, it's easier for a lot of people, and we've been trained to it as well.
Oh, look,
Um,
we're held to it every single day. Every movie you watch. I mean, I watch movies for the interesting side, but if you can watch a movie and go, yes, you know, I can see what they're getting at there. Because quite honestly, as in TASA, I mean, I love TASA, but we've all got to learn to accept mistakes, not start blaming somebody because something doesn't turn out some way. I'm not knocking anybody and I'm not for anybody because it's a good thing. You know, I'm actually quite excited with all the bloody happenings in TASA at the moment because it shows you we're thinking people.
yeah,
We're not just sitting back and going, you're right. What
yeah.
the hell? You know,
Um,
it's good fun.
I'll just butt in. I might just see what Alan and Ray and Anita think about all of this, because I'm fine with all this stuff. Not everybody is, and not everybody will be. And but Alan, how are you with all this stuff? And honestly, I mean, you won't get kicked off the panel if you disagree. Like, we like you.
Okay, well, I disagree. I was hoping you're going to kick me off for a minute.
That's it. You're
Um, Mate, I'm freaking out a little bit because I've only ever seen or witnessed something that was unexplained before in the sky once in my life. And it was at this very property that I'm staying on tonight that we're having this conversation, right? About 8 months ago, there was a group of us Tassarians got together here at Yeppoon, and we were at this property we're on now, and we were all sitting around, and we all looked up in the sky, and we saw it, unexplainable, and I'd never ever seen anything before. It was my first time. And here we are by coincidence. I'm visiting again at this property, and we're talking about this. So that's spinning me out a bit. I've got to give you that.
Alan, what did you see, mate?
We saw there were these red lights, and it's interesting too because we're talking a plane. We took the word of tonight, today's plane, and there were these red lights that came on, and they were like in a line in a plane, but one would come on and stay on. They weren't flashing; it'd come on and stay on, and then in a line miles away, it would disappear, and then the other one would come on at the same time, and then it'd go, and then another one would come on, and there was never two on at the same time, and they were in a line, but on the horizon, not in the horizon, sorry, up in the sky, but they were long way apart from each other, long way apart. So there's two ways of looking at it. One is that it was like they were all sort of lights on one line on the edge of a ship of some sort that were just coming on and off differently, or it was moving so quick and then coming on over here and then moving so quick on the other side of the sky and coming over there. Hard to explain, but we all saw it. And every time we all went to grab our phones out to take a photo or get video footage, disappear.
Yeah.
And then 15 minutes later, come back on again. Oh, shit, there it is again. Quickly, gone, And the minute we all sat there with our cameras for 10 minutes waiting, nothing, Anyway, it's me out a bit.
One of the things, when you see something like that, your first reaction is, like it or not, it's just our fight or flight instinct is panic. Unfortunately, they're able to pick that up. So you're best to go, if you want to see stuff like that, when you see something like that, go to your heart center and try and calm it. And as soon as you do that, it'll become you'll be able to photograph and things like that. These people who do a lot of this stuff, they are so blasé that it happens right next to them. There's some brilliant photos around like that. But yeah, no, that's brilliant. I'd love to see that.
Yeah. And I mean, just the simple fact that, how often do we have this conversation? And how often do I visit these people? Not every week. I visit once, twice a year. And here we are doing it. That's not a coincidence.
There are no accidents, Alan. No accidents at all.
The big night coming up tonight, mate.
It's getting dark soon. I'm going to go out there and have a look.
Just trying to comfort you here, mate.
Thanks, Al. Anita, are you on board with all this stuff?
Well, I've only
some
got
of it?
advice really for Alan to say, keep your eyes closed tonight, then you won't see anything. You won't know it's happening. I've had something similar, not so much with lights, but more with clouds, where I met somebody at our IGA shop, and he was homeless and whatever, and I bought him food, and he was very interesting to listen to. And I bought him some food, and then we just had a bit of a conversation, and he said to me, well, I don't even know his name. He doesn't know my name, but he said to me, well, if you go tonight at sunset, you will see 3 dragons dancing on the horizon over the ocean. Anyway, yeah. Carry on with the conversation, gave him some food, and off I went, packed my car and got whatever. And all of a sudden, I just went, hold out, I forgot. Sunset. When is it sunset? Anyway, so I rushed down to the beach, and I'm standing there, and I've taken my husband with. I said, you have to be there because he is a non-believer in all of this, right? And I said to him, if you see it, then I will believe what I'm seeing, because sometimes I have to wonder about myself. Anyway, so we're standing on the beach, and we're looking, and I say, I don't see anything. And he says, neither do I. And I'm going, okay, well, let's just spend a bit more time. Maybe it's not quite sunset yet, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, and the next minute, the clouds formed into 3 dragons over the horizon, far beyond the sea, just where it's, the sea and the horizon is sort of touching, imaginary. And I said to him, do you see it? And he said, yes, I see it. And I said, am I imagining? He says, am I imagining it? And so we were questioning each other, who's imagining what and who's influencing what. And it was there. We saw it. And then at one point in time, right over my house, I had 3 clouds that just did triangular shapes over the sky, white clouds. And it looked like, when you come to an end of the road and they've got the black and white little signs that says you can't enter anymore. It's like a whole board thing. And it looked like that right across my home. It was around about 3 to 5 of them that was right across my home. And I thought, that's a little bit odd. And another time, there was a few other things that's happened, but those were the 2 main things that I thought, maybe I should look up more often. And that was my experiences. Is it true? Is it not? Don't know.
Yeah, it sounds like, to me, it sounds more earthbound rather than UFOs. I'd say they're like dragons and fairies and all that stuff. They're just entities that we have no idea of, that we are slowly starting to perceive. In the spiritual aspect, we are so changed from what we were 20 years ago. And so these things are going to come to us, and we're going to see these things. Some people will be more sensitive to water objects, some people to air. Fire even. We were playing with fire one night. There's 3 of us sitting around a fire, and we were changing the colour of the fire. So it's just, it's amazing. And I think you've been given a very wonderful gift there. That'd be, look up more, I would be.
And yes, you're right. Our DNA is absolutely changing, and that is part of this shift, this frequency shift. So yes, we are going to start seeing things. We are going to start perceiving things that we haven't seen or perceived before, and certainly not as obviously. So anyway, I'll yield.
There you go, Anita. The show's not over yet. More to come.
I'm still wondering about myself, though.
What about you, Ray? Have you got anything to report?
Yeah, I'm going to come at it from an extremely opposite angle. But before I do, in the chat, I've put the link to the Westall and another incident in the chat, which is when teachers and students saw a UFO in 1966 at Westall School in Melbourne. And the police had come, the army had come, and the principal was threatened and told that if a student talks about this, expel them, and any teacher that does, fire them. So that was that. Also, Fred, I stuck on a private message to you, a link to my Telegram channel, if you're
Oh,
interested, that Sarah's been talking
absolutely.
about.
Thank you, Ray.
This week, I've written down my response, and then my friend who's very much into all this stuff, but is non-TASA guy, I went to school with him. I cut and pasted an SMS he sent me a few months ago when we discussed all of this, funnily enough. I'll read that out a bit later to keep it short, but this is my response. The plan's a state-led UFO attack on Earth. We've been preconditioned by the media for the past few decades to slowly but surely start accepting the existence of aliens and UFOs. Most UFO sightings are not unidentified flying objects. It's been military technology. The United States has special ops forces, meaning intelligence and military operations in more countries than they have embassies. They manipulate us to believe in UFOs, and secondly, to conduct a UFO attack that will force the world to unite to fight off this enemy and accept the New World Order. So all the lies about the weaponization of space based upon the evil Russians and their enemies, we need a space-based weapon system. Then we've got the boogeyman of terrorists and third world countries that we now call rogue nations. There's going to be asteroids, and the last card would be the extraterrestrial threat. The governments have secrets that they keep from us. They can manipulate us by those secrets. They remain at least 25 years ahead of us in technology, information, and secrets, and they're using them against us so that we feel totally helpless to prevent the New World Order from occurring. It's an orchestrated plan to get us submissive and to get us all scared into surrendering national sovereignty to a one world body under the blanket of the National Security Act. So they need a worldwide threat to our safety and survival, just like climate change and all these other man-made stuff. Now, the actions of GovCo over the years that I know about, are these the people I'm going to trust with my safety? Are these the people I'm going to believe anything they say? For me, no. And finally, I don't believe that all of them are ETs, extraterrestrials. I believe they're EDs, extra dimensionals from the other side, because I'm coming at it from the messianic agenda, that this is all to usher in the second coming of Christ, because I believe in creation, the six-day creation theory, the Noah's Ark and the flood, that the world is about 6,000 years old, not billions and billions and all of that. So that's the angle I'm coming from. I yield.
Knew I could rely on you, Ray. I knew it.
I do think that
Thanks,
you're
mate.
right. You're right about ushering in this like fear of UFOs and fear of aliens. I think they're absolutely doing that because that is their game plan. They use fear to control all the time. And I think Fred probably knows a bit more about this than I do, but my understanding of that is that if you remain in your heart space and you remain true to who you are, that kind of won't trick you. Because I know Anita was asking before, how do you know the difference? And you basically stay in your heart space and you know who you are and you resonate. Because look, we all know when we meet someone and they're being fake. We know that, and we get bad vibes off people, and we can read energy. I mean, we've all learned how to read energy. You know, any 6-year-old can tell you by walking into the kitchen how his mum's standing at the sink, whether she's cranky or not. That's reading energy. And we can all do it. We just have to remember how and forget about the fear. This I will say, I'm not a religious person, but I'm fairly spiritual, and I would say that if you truly open your heart space and you have a connection with spirit, I don't think that our souls can be harmed at all. And the body is it's just a temporary vessel. So I don't think fear is going to serve anyone. So if anyone is fearful about it, I'd probably do a little bit of work around that.
Yeah.
That's just my advice, because they will try, absolutely, Ray, to bring in this whole fear and get everyone to submit to whatever. It's like, oh, we're going to cut off, and they are, in 3 months' time, they're going to cut off Facebook and YouTube and everything for all of people who don't have digital ID. And they'll sell it as all this fear porn. And people, you know what will happen? Smart people will just stop using Facebook and YouTube and go, wow, I've got my life back.
Yep.
You know, it's going to be a bit like the COVID thing where they inoculated everybody. And there was, you know, if you didn't have the jab, you couldn't get in to do whatever. How many people actually took it so they could get in? The worst one was get into Woolworths or whatever. The worst one was most of them had families. That was how they got to them in the end, because, I mean, if they stop Facebook, so what? You know, you just sort of move on to the next bit. I really don't think it's going to work this time. I think they're going to do things, but I don't think it's going to work. I really don't.
Thanks, Fred. Anita, you had your hand up first, I think.
Oh, people got hands up. Sorry, I've got my phone.
You're the guest of honour today, Fred. You just talk when you're ready. I'll shut you up if you go too hard.
A reading of energy. I do wash my dogs on the odd occasion, like once every 3 weeks, 2 weeks, whatever. And today was wash day because I decided I've got some time and I am just out of the blue, I'm going to wash my dogs. Now I've got 3. So the Chihuahua I grabbed first, and then the other, her brother, not a real brother, but I took the boy as well. But the girly dog one knew from the minute that I walked through the back door, she started to hide under the bed that it was wash day today. And I could still not get her. She's now sleeping right next to me because the danger is over, but the other 2's washed and she was hiding. I could not get her. So even they can read energy that it's now wash time and she's going to hide. What I try not to show it. I try just to be blasé, do my own thing and just walk towards them. As soon as I walk, I normally can walk towards them. Today, nah, wash day. They ran away from me. So how do they know? I want to know. Explanation, please.
They
Oh,
just know.
That's something about animals. They are able to read humans better than the humans realise. They submit because they know they'll get a treat or something like that afterwards, but no, they know what you're doing.
and dogs can read thoughts too.
Oh, yeah.
Like, absolutely
quite
can
sure.
read thoughts. I've done it before with Misty. I've called her, like sitting on the back veranda. I just opened up my heart space. I said, Misty, I need you to come here now. And like 5 minutes later, she's trotting around the corner of the house and she comes straight over to me. And I'm like, so yeah.
Yeah, I had a bit to do with horses when I was younger. And if you're on a horse and you're nervous, they know. They'll take it. You might not think you're any different to what you were yesterday or the day before, but if you're nervous, they know. And if they want to take advantage of you, they will. They sense that stuff.
You know, a lot of people think that horses are actually what dragons evolved into.
Really?
Yeah.
Not heard that one.
Yep.
Food for thought. So maybe I was riding a dragon.
Maybe you were.
Oh. Okay.
I thought the dragons were still there. Horses come from another planet.
Don't know. George Cavassalis reckons that dragons turned into horses.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it could be. I mean, who knows?
If you look at a horse's skull, you can see how that might work. But anyway, Ray wants to talk.
Yeah, Ray, you want to talk?
Thanks, Sarah, because just 1 minute ago, I had in my mind just something I could say briefly. You go in there and give me another two things that I have to respond to. Thanks for that. No, no. First, I was going to say, on the Telegram channel that you might have looked at already, follow the numbering 1 down to 20 sequentially. When you get to, I think it's number 12, putting it all together, there's that 8 hour plus arrival series. That's very, very important. I know it's 8 and something hours, but it puts it all together. And as you work your way through, it makes a lot of sense, even if you have to watch it every 2 weeks. Episodes 19 and 20 of that are devoted to the UFOs. And they go into that, but watch it sequentially, of course. It is still, down to this day, the most widely watched and successful series on YouTube ever. Just as a side point. I was going to read out my friend's response, but I think I'll do that later because I need to respond to Sarah. Yes, I've heard that dinosaurs became fish or whatever, because I know I used to teach science in high school and, you had to teach evolution, even though I thought it was a load of nonsense. Mendel, remember that monk from a few years ago when he had all the genes and he tried to get new plants and graft them on and do that sort of stuff. So if you're looking at evolution, you've got genes that you can shuffle around and get different things. Like for example, you've got a dog, but you could also have a blue heeler or a Labrador or whatever, different variety. So they can mate with each other. And same with cats within each other. But you can't mate a cat and a dog. So yeah, you can't have birds becoming fish or dinosaurs becoming horses or whatever it was. Nature is too exact to allow for that. So there has to be the designer. This is what I'm trying to say. So yeah, that sort of stuff can't go. Another thing, what's the evidence that we have? We have evidence like trees. That's the oldest thing, that life form that we can find. Go and see what's the oldest tree we have. It only goes back about 4 or 5 millennia. So, there's nothing that we have, not even potassium argon dating, which can do things that are older than carbon dating, right? There's nothing that can suggest to us scientifically. I'm talking about scientific stuff, like the actual people want the 5 sense reality. What can you see, hear, taste, touch, smell as the evidence? There's nothing that suggests that we are 50, 60, 70,000 years old. I yield.
Thank you, Ray. Where are we going to go now? Any idea?
We've done the hour. We've kept to the time. So unless anyone else has got anything else.
Can I read my friend's response then?
Yeah. What was the response to again?
The UFOs. Because,
okay. Yeah.
He's big time into UFOs and Bigfoot and all this sort of stuff, and Halloween. Okay. Hi, Ray. I believe it was either the military or most likely demons from the other side as they glitter in and out of our reality and dimensions. As for Bigfoot, he has been spotted in forests worldwide, but most predominantly in North America. He is connected with both UFOs and evil forest spirits and demons. Funnily enough, a large sum of sightings have been seen at the same place and time UFOs are in the sky. So my research makes me conclude they are also definitely real. Are they an ancient creature from prehistoric times? Definitely not. They are possible aliens, and it is their spaceships in the forest with them? No, that's not it. As Bigfoot is known to be ape-like and has been known to just forage around the forest for food and water, he also likes banging on trees. So it's more like an animal than any intelligent alien race that can construct and drive alien spacecrafts. They just aren't that smart. So what are they? They are a ruse. It's a trick, a magician's trick. Do you get it? The evil demonic forces that govern the forests and bush create them to get our attention. So while we are distracted trying to investigate this big hairy creature, they lure us in. Then all of a sudden, Bigfoot disappears, and guess what? The demons have us. It's like fishing. Bigfoot is the bait, we are the prey. As for the UFO conspiracy, I lean more on the fact that they are not aliens from another planet, but just the same old familiar faces of Lucifer and his dominions, just fluttering in and out of our dimensions to cause havoc and confusion. Remember, Ray, Lucifer's main goal is to cause havoc, chaos, confusion, and the destruction of the human race. I believe people really do see UFOs in the sky, so I believe the phenomenon is definitely true. There are too many witnesses worldwide for it not to be. But is it the government? Yes, it is sometimes. But how did the government create such futuristic technology? From Satan and his demons pretending to be alien creatures from another planet. They are creatures, all right, just not from another planet. Just like the rich and famous have sold their soul to the devil for fame and fortune, I believe high-up government officials and politicians have sold their souls for secrets from the devil about his technology, like spaceships that defy the logic of our earthly physics. I yield.
Yeah, Bigfoot.
Yeah.
The Australian Yowie.
Yeah.
I spent a bit of time in the bush. I believe in the Yowie. There's too many. I can't say I've seen one, but I reckon I've been near one. I've had a couple of experiences in the bush, and I don't know what was there, but I was getting out of there. And I actually, I've read a lot of stuff about them, and I think they're, how would I put it, interdimensional. I think they can disappear or appear from another dimension, would be how I would put it. But there's stories everywhere around this country. The same with the Black Panther. I have actually seen a Black Panther up close with a spotlight and looked at it for quite some time. So I know for a fact that they do exist there. And I will throw this bit in. There's an Aboriginal elder who I got to know reasonably well. Sarah's met him as well. And I spent a bit of time with this particular fellow, and I was running him. He lives south of Darwin here, and we were doing stuff, and I spent a lot of time with him in the car, travelling into town and meetings and going back out. And I got to talk to him about a lot of stuff. And I asked him about the hairy man. He said, oh, yeah. And he said, I'll show you where he lives. And he told me stories of the Yowie that overlooks their particular place where they live in the bush. He never gives them any trouble. This particular elder, he's not frightened. They live together. They never harm each other. But there are stories about the pig farmer just down the road who had trouble keeping his pigs together because the Yowies were getting them and pulling them apart. But yeah, to that particular man, they were real, and I believed it anyway before that conversation. But yeah, he confirmed it for me, and if I ever drive out there now, I know just where to look. I don't think I'll get out of the car and go for a walk, but I know where.
You wouldn't be hurt. They're not savages.
No.
They're dimensional beings.
Yeah.
There was a thing I read quite a few years ago, and it said that a lot of animals that we're seeing that are going extinct or are very close to extinction, or they just suddenly disappear. They said what's actually happening is that at a collective soul level, those creatures are moving into a different dimension to get away from humans, to not be destroyed. And then there's the talk about so like in the Mayan cultures and stuff like that, and we know we've all heard about the Bermuda Triangle and the Mary Celeste where they went on and there's like no people, all the food's still sitting there and stuff like that. And these stories keep happening. They don't go away, they just get quashed, but they are happening. And I do think that there is a dimensional, like a different plane, and dimensional shift. And I think there's timeline jumpings and all that kind of stuff. So the big thing, I guess, for me would be, because I know we've obviously got people who have a religious belief. We've then got other people who are the spiritual belief. Then we've got other people who are, it's all UFOs, and then there are other people that it's all bunk. I think it's a mixture of a whole lot of stuff. And I think this is what it comes back to. You got to just stay in your heart space, be true to you, and just fear not. I mean, Anna sits there and tells us all the time. She tells us she's a seraphim. She's never, ever not said she's a seraphim. She's talking about it a lot. So, and I don't know enough to know that I would absolutely be not prepared to say that there's no such thing as UFOs. And I would not be prepared to say that the beings that I communicate with are demons. I have seen no evidence of that at all. In fact, they have been instrumental in protecting me on more than one occasion. So, whereas I've had angelic beings come to me and I did not trust them at all. And they wanted something that I was not prepared to give. And I said, no, I'm not doing that. And they chucked a tanty and then left. So don't judge a book by its cover, judge on how you feel in your gut.
Yeah, I've had some experiences too. A couple of small ones, I've had experience with the demon that sat on the edge of my bed one night. I've had experience with people that turned up beside the bed, which I just woke up for no reason, and there was this lady. And it wasn't scary, but the demon was scary. But I've had that. I've had other stuff happen in my life. Like I've told Fred the story before about I got regressed, and there was a lot come out of that. I wasn't even. I'm not going to tell you the story now because we're out of time. But there was a bunch of ladies that wanted to go to this particular place there in the Southern Highlands, and they were all on the same wavelength, that they knew stuff from the past. And so they went down to see this particular lady, and my ex at the time, or the lady I was living with at the time, she was one of them. And I had the weekend off, and I said, I'll drive you down there because I love the Southern Highlands. And so they all went down there and they disappeared, and they're getting regressed and telling their stories. And the lady come and found me. She said, you're not here for no reason, I said, no, I'm the driver. She said, no, you're here for a reason. So she regressed me, and it went on from there. And I was meant to be there, and I did, and it was a interesting experience. But I've got to leave you with that because it'll take too long to tell it. But
Can I just quickly jump in? I can hear voices at the moment, and it's actually somebody calling me, and I'm pretty sure they're real though. So I am going to have to go. My apologies, people. I have to go. So we'll see you next week.
I would check. Are you sure they're real, Alan?
He's gone. If he doesn't turn up, we'll know. We'll have to
Ray, you've got your hand up, and then we better.
Yeah, I was just going to say it's true. We need to be able to decipher between the good beings and the evil beings, number one. Number two, don't know if you know, I think Anita knows, I have undergone an exorcism. 15 years ago and had two demons removed from me, and I didn't know they were in my body for 12 years because obviously it's not something that's going to be picked up on a CT scan or anything like that. Um, and it did save me. And also, another thing, again, the way we've been conditioned, I think this is another big factor we ignore into why we think the way we think. Um, because they've faked our history, and there's a lot of aspects of history that we are not privy to, that also influences us because we see people not getting along with each other. Sure, the world's always been chaotic and it's never been peaceful, but there have certainly been civilizations in history that were more cohesive, where people didn't hate each other and did get along better. But you see, I believe this is part of, that's what I'm saying, this is just me, my belief, is that yes, because of we see all the technology today, we believe this is the most advanced and progressive one the world's ever known. That's how they suck us in. But in order to bring this in, we overthrew civilizations that were far more cohesive and really did get along and pinched their knowledge and made it look indigenous to our own. So these are things that all come into how we get shaped and conditioned and all of that. But again, it's an individual journey, and whatever floats people's boats, hey, they're not hurting anyone. Big deal. Are you?
And we all have different universes. So, what happened in the background of my universe, in my, what I'm going back 300 years of history might be a different background history to you. So
Yeah.
I guess, so where does it leave us? We've got weird stuff coming down the line. I guess just keep your head on a swivel, keep your heart close, and just start to really trust your gut, listen to your intuition.
Yeah,
Start to enjoy
I'd
yourself.
agree.
Start to
Yeah.
enjoy yourself.
Yeah.
Because by
Have a
enjoying
laugh.
yourself, you align with all the good stuff.
Yeah.
You're not aligned with the, shit. If you live in fear, well, okay, you can live in fear, but I can tell you, you're better off staying, happy
Yeah.
than being down. Yeah.
And I think, with all the stuff I've read, I think we are at a pivotal point in the history of this planet.
Yeah.
I do believe that we chose to be here at this time, and sometimes when I think about that, I give myself an uppercut for doing it. But it's I do believe it's all gonna end well, and I agree. Do not live in fear. And if you see something unusual, and I can tell you that what I told you about a demon landing on the edge of my bed, a horrible looking critter, I actually saw it. You need to find, as soon as you find, you go straight to your heart. And if you send love, that critter will be gone. You send them love. You don't get, well, I couldn't say I didn't get a fright. It gave me a fright, all right. But as soon as you send love, they're gone, those critters. Yeah. And so where you are in your heart is very important around all of this stuff, and that'll be the same if we do meet whatever you call them, aliens, extraterrestrials, whatever. If you're in your heart space, you will know whether they're good or bad. Same thing, send them love.
Yeah. And as Fred said, just have a laugh, keep the vibe high, enjoy life. Don't be frightened. Just look at everything that's coming down the line and go, oh, okay, this is the next ride we're on.
Let's go.
That's a good point. I was just going to say it's good that because it goes to show how we are all different, because everyone's saying don't live in fear. Totally agree. But I know myself well. For me, some fear is essential. The flight or fight is essential because it protects me from danger. Yeah. So yes, when you have that goal, don't live in fear, you'll do all right. But don't beat yourself up if it doesn't work 10 times in 10, because the fear, I think, is there as a protective measure. So, yeah, all in moderation, I yield.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And like, I'm not some fucking hero. I'm not telling you I don't get frightened. I do, but it's what you do. It's what you
Yeah.
do after you recognise the fear. That's what makes the difference. It's how you recover yourself and how you get on with your life, and you refuse to entertain whatever it is they're trying to scare you with or whatever it is. And shit's real, we know that, but
Yeah.
you can only go so far with that stuff.
That's
But
right.
I get frightened, but I don't live my life
No.
in fear, and I refuse.
Yeah. Fear is a response to something that you need to be alert or aware about. That's a good thing. But to constantly live in, oh my goodness, what's coming, that's not a good place to be. When you get like that, go out and hug a tree or something like that. Like seriously, because that will ground you and it'll bring you back. So good place to be. Now, just so you know, Wayne, I've sent you the links to the stuff that Fred and I've talked about.
Good.
Super soldier stuff, Michael Salla, George Caslis, the primary school or the school thing that Ray put in the chat, and Laura Eisenhower of some stuff through for her. If anyone else wants to follow up on stuff, Dale Holmes does some stuff on this. He talks about what's going on in terms of the aliens and all that.
I haven't watched him for ages.
No, but he gets on and talks about it every now and then. So if you find Dale Holmes in the chat.
So
but yeah, so there's a lot of information out there. But just I guess it's like everything else, just inform yourself. Take what resonates, ignore what doesn't, and roll with that.
it. Like it or not, you heard it here first on the Pepper Files. Like it or not.
I like that. Pepper Files, I reckon that's it.
Yep.
Yeah, we're downloading the Pepper Files.
I feel that we haven't been given full disclosure, and I'm about to write a rebuttal.
Okay.
That is my answer.
Very good.
All right. So if you're out there listening to this, go where you like with this information. Some people will adopt it, some won't, some will hate it. But like it or not, in this day and age, where we are in our history, you can't get away from it. So some of this stuff might be too extreme. I wouldn't ignore it. Put it that way.
No.
Just come in at your own level where you're comfortable and move from there. All right. I appreciate all of you for coming on here today. Thanks, Fred, for helping out. You can come back another day and talk to us some more about this.
Just a little bit. I've teed up a guy, not next week, but the week after. He'll be our guest on the show. He has spent quite a bit of time in court on traffic offences. He's reconveyed.
Yeah.
And Ben's going to come on and tell us about how he got every single charge thrown out. So, and talk us a bit through the process of that. I also have another gentleman lined up to come and talk to us about how copper affects us as living men and women, what it does for us. He's been a little unwell himself, so he's going to get back to me, but he'll be on hopefully in the next couple of weeks. So I just need to line up a guest for next Saturday. And I have some ideas.
Very good advertising, Sarah.
Sorry?
That's not very good advertising.
No, I haven't figured out who I'm going to do next week. I thought I had someone and then they pulled out. So it's like, okay.
I thought Fred's coming back next week.
Are you coming back next week, Fred? You're welcome.
Yeah, I can come back next week.
Well, we don't know. We'll talk a bit more. We might come back next week and we can talk a bit about the Super Soldier program or something like that. But if anyone's listening to this, drop comments. Drop comments on the Pepper Files or stick them in the Telegram podcast channel or send me an email or whatever, seagull4451@outlook.com, and let us know, because we will we'll do what we can to accommodate people's requests as long as they are reasonable.
All right. Thank you all for your presence.
Very good.
Thanks all. Have a good week.
Bye.
You too. See you. I'll stop recording. There's the record button.